Today is May 28th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, out of the Big Book, we are going to begin Chapter 7, Working with Others, by reading pages 89 through 90. And out of the personal stories, we're going to be finishing off the story, He Lived Only to Drink, pages 449 through 451. And finally, out of the 12 and 12, we are going to begin tradition number 6 by reading page 155. So with all that, my friends, hope you're doing well this morning. We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours and hey, life is good, So let's go ahead and press on and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So the last couple of days, we have read some great stuff in the Big Book, the core text, In Action. It's probably my favorite chapter of the entire book, only because it is so practical about what specifically we can do as alcoholics and how we can apply these steps to our lives. And there was a lot of ground covered in There's a Solution and In Action. We finally left off with step number 12, and that's what this chapter is all about. Chapter number 7, Working with Others. So with all that, my friends, let's get right to it. We're on 89. Chapter 7, Working with Others. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know that you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. Perhaps you are not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. You can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. They will only be too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or reformer. Unfortunately, a lot of prejudice still exists. You will be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent, and you can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens that because of your own drinking experience, you can uniquely be useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate. Never criticize. To be helpful is our only aim. When you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time by trying to persuade him. You may spoil a later opportunity. This advice is given for his family also. They should be patient, realizing that they're dealing with a sick person. If there's any indication that he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife. Get an idea of his behavior, his problems, his background, the seriousness of his condition, and his religious leanings. You need this information to put yourself in his place, to see how you would like him to approach you if the tables were turned. Sometimes it is wise to wait until he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he is in a dangerous physical condition, it's better to risk it. Don't deal with him if he is very drunk, unless he is ugly and the family needs your help. Wait for the end of the spree, or at least for a lucid interval. Then let his family or friend ask him if he wants to quit for good, and if he will go to any extreme to do so. If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. You should be described to him as one of a fellowship who, as part of their own recovery, try to help others and who will be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you. If he does not want to see you, never force yourself upon him. Neither should the family hysterically plead with him to do anything, nor should they tell him much about you. They should wait for the end of the next drinking bout. You might place this book where he can see it in the interval. Here, no specific rule can be given. The family must decide these things, but urge them not to be over-anxious, for that would spoil matters. All right, so once again, some very practical advice here in working with others. All right, so if you recall from yesterday's reading in He Lived Only to Drink, our friend here talked about, how drinking was the missing piece. It all of a sudden gave him that false confidence. And obviously his life becomes unmanageable very quickly. Within the first year, he starts to lose jobs because of his drinking, and eventually he is sent to an asylum. That's where we left off yesterday. Again, we're going to finish off the story today by reading 449 through 451. When I was released from the asylum, I moved to a large city to make a new beginning. My life had become a series of new beginnings. In time, I picked up the drink, got good jobs, and lost them as I had in the past. All the fear and remorse and terrible depression returned tenfold. It still did not register that my drinking might be the cause of all this misery. I sold my blood. I prostituted myself. I drank more. I became hopeless and slept in the bus and train terminals. I scrounged cigarette butts off the sidewalks and drank from a common wine bottle with other drunks. I saw my way to the man's municipal shelter and made it my home. I panhandled. By this time, I lived only to drink. I did not bathe or change clothes. I stank. I became thin and ill. I had begun to hear voices and accepted them as death omens. I was frightened, arrogant, enraged, and resentful of man, God, and the universe. There was nothing else to live for. But I was too frightened to die. It was at this point that a woman who was a social worker on Skid Row and a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous sat me down in her office and told me about her story. How she drank, what happened, and how she got sober. No one had ever done this before. I'd been preached to, analyzed, cursed, counseled, but no one had ever said, I identify with what's going on with you. It happened to me, and this is what I did about it. She got me to my first AA meeting that same evening. The people at the meetings gathered around me in kindness in those early days, and I did not drink. But the spiritual demons of withdrawal descended on me. I was black, and these people were white. What did they know about suffering? What could they tell me? I was black and bright, and the world had consistently rejected me for it. I hated this world, its people, and its punishing God. Yet I believed the people in the AA were sincere, and whatever they believed in was working for them. I just did not believe that AA would work for me as a black drunk. I genuinely believed that I was different until much later, when I had what I now know to be my first spiritual awakening. That I was an alcoholic and I didn't have to drink. I also learned that alcoholism, as an equal opportunity illness, does not discriminate. It is not restricted to race, creed, or geography. At last, I was released from the bondage of my uniqueness. In early sobriety, I had to continue to live in a flip house filled with active drunks. Not drinking, I became acutely aware of my surroundings. The foul smells, the noise, the hostility, and physical danger. My resentments mounted at the realization that I had flushed a career down the drain, disgraced and alienated my family, and had been relegated to the meanest of institutions, a Skid Row shelter. But I was also able to realize that this bonfire of resentment and rage was beckoning me to pick up a drink and plunge into my death. Then I realized that I had to separate my sobriety from everything else that was going on in my life. No matter what happened or didn't happen, I couldn't drink. In fact, none of these things I was going through had anything to do with my sobriety. The tides of life flow endlessly for better or worse, both good and bad, and I cannot allow my sobriety to become dependent on these ups and downs of living. Sobriety must live a life of its own. More important, I came to believe that I cannot do this alone. From childhood, despite the love that I experienced, I had never let people, even those closest to me, inside my life. All my life I had lived the deepest of lies, not sharing with anyone my true thoughts and feelings. I thought I had a direct line to God, and I built a wall of distrust around myself. In AA, I faced the pervasive we of 12 steps, and gradually realized that I can separate and protect my sobriety from outside hazards only inasmuch as I rely on the sober experience of other AA members and share their journey through the steps of recovery. The rewards of sobriety are bountiful and as progressive as the disease they counteract. Certainly among these rewards for me are release from the prison of uniqueness, and the realization that participation in the AA way of life is a blessing and a privilege beyond estimate. A blessing to live a life free from pain and degradation of drinking and filled with the joy of useful, sober living, and a privilege to grow in sobriety one day at a time and bring the message of hope as it was brought to me. Beautiful stuff there, guys, as we finish off He Lived Only to Drink. What a beautiful story of hope. And finally, my friends, we are on page 155 of the 1212. We are beginning tradition number 6. An AA group ought never to endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. The moment we saw that we had an answer for alcoholism, it was reasonable, or so it seemed at the time, for us to feel that we might have the answer to a lot of other things. The AA groups, many thought, could go into business, might finance any enterprise, whatever in the total field of alcoholism. In fact, we felt duty bound to throw the whole weight of the AA name behind any meritorious cause. Here are some of the things we dreamed. Hospitals didn't like alcoholics, so we thought we'd build a hospital chain of our own. People needed to be told what alcoholism was, so we'd educate the public, even rewrite school and medical textbooks. We'd gather up derelicts from skid rows, sort out those who could get well, and make it possible for the rest to earn their livelihood in a kind of quarantine confinement. Maybe these places would make large sums of money to carry on our other good works. We seriously thought of rewriting the laws of the land and having it declare that alcoholics were sick people. No more would they be jailed. Judges would parole them in our custody. We'd spill AA into the dark regions of dope addiction and criminality. We'd form groups of depressive and paranoid folks. The deeper the neurosis, the better we'd like it. It stood to reason that if alcoholism could be licked, so could any problem. All right, my friends. So that's all we're going to be reading today. Again, I apologize for my voice. I'm still battling some strep throat here, so I'm going to keep this very brief today. But clearly you see that there were often times where they wanted to expand AA in so many ways with probably very good intentions. But as we've seen from some of the previous traditions, when we get a little too big for our britches and maybe finances are involved or prestige is involved, it could distract us from our primary purpose, which is to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety and not overcomplicate things. So with all that, my friends, as always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or NA or Al-Anon or any other sector or denomination. I am just a guy in this lifeboat recovery. So thrilled that you're here with me today. And if we're given another set of 24 hours, I'm looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.